They marked him KA. The crater was supposed to be empty. Then the ground moved, and a human climbed out. They said humans were too weak for frontline duty. Not as an insult, more like a fact, cold, printed in coalition doctrine. Humans broke too easy, bled too fast, and died way quicker than species built with backup organs and armor for skin. So the brass stuck them in support roles and called it mercy. Karin 9 didn't give a damn about doctrine. The Eastern Line was already going to hell. Plasma fire cut the sky open. Trenches melted into glowing rivers, and coalition troops were falling back hard. The Virex swarm poured through the breach, 6-limbed monsters. Blades where hands should be. Zero hesitation in their eyes. Then the alert popped. Human unit, KIA, Private Elias Rowe, erased by an orbital strike. Grid square turned into a crater big enough to swallow a dropship. Command tagged it and moved on. Dead was dead, except the crater twitched. Sensors spiked. Cameras auto-focused. A hand burst through the ash. Human. No way, someone whispered in command. Rowe dragged himself up like the planet owed him money. Helmet gone. Face burned raw. Armor split open and fused to his skin. One leg bent sideways. Wrong in a way medics hate. He stood anyway. The Virex noticed him instantly. One human alone, easy math. Rowe lifted his rifle, breathing ragged but eyes sharp. He keyed his comm. "Frontline," he rasped. "Yeah, I'm not dead." Command exploded with shouting. "You're red-tagged! Fall back now!" Rowe glanced behind him. Evac crews, medics, engineers scrambling while the swarm closed in. He clicked his safety off. "Negative," he said. The first Virex charged. Rowe dropped it with one clean shot. Joint hit, hard fall. Second one ate 2 rounds through the face. The third reached him. Blade punched through his side, lifting him off the ground. Blood sprayed the crater rim. Half of command looked away. Rowe screamed and fired point blank. They hit the ground together. Rowe coughed blood, laughed like a madman, and forced himself back up. Rowe's HUD was a nightmare. Organ failure warnings, shock indicators, countdowns he didn't want to read. His suit kept screaming fatal like it was offended he hadn't dropped yet. Yeah, he muttered. Join the club. The Virex hesitated. That half-second mattered. Rowe fired again, slow, controlled. Every shot counted. He wasn't trying to win. He was buying time. Behind him, evac crews stared in disbelief. A human rear-line trash, according to coalition standards, standing alone between them and the swarm. Then something snapped. A human medic dropped her kit and grabbed a rifle, meant for someone twice her size. A tech crewman swung a plasma cutter like a bat. They screamed and ran forward, fear turning into fury mid-stride. Coalition troops froze, then followed. The push was ugly. No clean formations, no perfect orders. Just bodies moving forward because stopping felt worse. Rowe fired until his rifle clicked empty. He didn't toss it, used it as a club. When it broke, he drew his sidearm. When that ran dry, he pulled his knife. A Virex blade punched through his chest. Command gasped. Rowe stayed standing. "How's he still moving?" Someone whispered. Rowe opened a general broadcast. "They say we're weak," he growled, blood bubbling on his lips. "So stop watching." Then he screamed. Not words, not pain. Pure human rage. Every human on that field screamed back. The sound hit the Virex like a wall. The swarm faltered, confusion rippling through them. Coalition artillery came back online. The line surged forward. Rowe finally dropped to one knee, vision tunneling. Hands caught him before he face-planted. Medics worked fast, swearing in 3 languages. A Karathi general knelt beside the stretcher, staring like physics had just betrayed him. "You should be dead," the general said. Rowe cracked one eye and smirked. "Yeah," he whispered. "We hear that a lot." Rowe woke up 3 days later. Pain hit first, then light, then voices arguing over his bed. He should have died on the field. "Human biology makes no sense," Rowe croaked. "You guys always this chatty?" Silence. Doctors stared like a ghost had asked for coffee. Word spread fast. Footage leaked. The crater, the charge, the scream. Humans across coalition space replayed it on loop. Not as propaganda, more like proof. Frontline commanders started asking questions. If one human could hold a breach alone, what would a platoon do? Coalition doctrine meetings turned ugly. Old models shattered. Risk charts got rewritten. They played the footage again. Rowe standing, bleeding, refusing to fall. Not strength, one analyst muttered. It's refusal. On Karen 9, the Virex never recovered that ground. Rowe was offered medals, promotions, safe postings. He declined all of it. Put me back where it matters, he said. When the coalition finally reissued doctrine, they didn't sugarcoat it. They deleted one line. Humans, too weak for frontline duty. They added another. Humans, last ones to retreat. Because they had watched one walk out of a crater and learned the hard way. Never mistake fragile for breakable. Rowe was back on the line 2 weeks later. Doctors hated it. Command hated it. Coalition risk analysts straight up lost their minds. But humans didn't bounce back because it was smart. They did it because sitting still felt worse. Karen 9 wasn't done bleeding. The Virex came back harder, pissed, and organized this time. Bigger units, heavier armor. They wanted payback. Wanted the human myth crushed before it spread any further. Rowe stood with a mixed unit now. Humans up front. Aliens watching them like loaded weapons they didn't fully trust yet. A Karathi captain leaned over. You break, we pull you out. Rowe smirked. Don't blink. The first wave hit like a freight train. Ground shook. Blades flashed. Humans moved fast. Not strong, not armored, just mean and smart. They didn't tank hits. They dodged, swarmed, hit weak spots, and kept moving. Rowe took a glancing plasma burn across his ribs and didn't slow down. He shouted orders. Humans listened. Aliens started listening too. When a Virex juggernaut broke through the center, coalition troops froze. Rowe didn't. He sprinted straight at it. That's suicide, someone yelled. Rowe jammed explosives into the thing's joint seams and dove clear. The blast ripped it apart mid-step. Silence. Then cheers. The line held. For the first time in the war, the coalition advanced with humans leading the push, not because of orders, but because nobody wanted to be behind them. After the battle, a council observer recorded a quiet note. Humans do not dominate the field. They infect it. Rowe overheard and laughed. Yeah, he said. Sounds about right. Months later, the war ended. Not with a superweapon, not with a final speech. It ended because the Virex stopped pushing. Everywhere humans showed up, the math broke. Casualty predictions failed. Fear stopped working. The enemy learned that humans didn't quit when things got ugly. They got personal. In the final coalition assembly, footage played one last time. The crater, the hand, the human climbing out of hell. No music, no commentary, just truth. The council voted, unanimous for the first time in recorded history. Humans were reclassified, not as fragile, not as expendable, but as frontline shock troops. Rowe didn't attend the ceremony. He was planetside, teaching new recruits, human and alien, how to fight dirty. Move fast and never assume the other guy's done. A young alien asked him once, "Why didn't you stay down in the crater?" Rowe thought about it. About the evac crews, the screaming. The moment standing felt like the only option left. He shrugged. Somebody was still behind me. The alien nodded slowly, like something heavy had finally clicked. Years later, coalition history would simplify it. They'd say humans proved them wrong. Rowe knew better. They never proved strength. They proved refusal, because the galaxy didn't remember humans as the toughest species. It remembered them as the ones who kept getting back up, the ones who stood where they weren't supposed to, the ones who walked out of craters. And if you ask any veteran from Karen 9 what changed the war, they won't say strategy. They won't say weapons. They'll say this. They said humans were too weak for frontline duty. And then they watched one prove them all wrong.